12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom. Informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Okay, bel bonjour tout le monde. Is it too late to say bon fait Creole? Still too late. Happy Creole Heritage Month. And we have a very, very special panel of guests today. We're going to be talking about biodiversity. What is biodiversity? Why is it important to us? What does it matter really as St. Lucian people and people of the Caribbean? So we have a very special and important panel of biodiversity champions of St. Lucia. And so what we're going to be talking about is from our forests to our reefs. St. Lucia's biodiversity is the heartbeat of our island. Today we are diving into how nature sustains our lives, what is being done to protect it in ways in which everyone, from the young to the old, can pitch in to help to ensure that we protect St. Lucia's biodiversity. We have with us representatives from the forestry, St. Lucia National Trust, and CYEN. And these women have been championing very important matters in terms of protecting what our environments and why these things should be protected, and helping to enlighten us today about things that we may not know as a community, especially in terms of how we can protect our environment, in terms of being mindful of where we throw our garbage, in terms of understanding the flora, the fauna. All of us know about the huge campaign that happened in the 1990s to protect the jackal, and how successful that was in creating that awareness, and how we can continue to do that as a community. So I will let them introduce themselves by their own definitions of telling us what is biodiversity, and then you guys can introduce yourselves, your names, who you represent, and what does biodiversity mean to you. Over to you.
Bon après-midi tout le monde. Bon après-midi, Melina Murray. I am employed with the St. Lucia National Trust. I have been in conservation for over 20 years. I am the conservation officer. You ask, what is biodiversity? How do I explain that to the general public? Let's see. It is all about the different species, the wide variety of our species, different species. And we have some marvelous, some very unique species out there. But I'll let my colleague from forestry define that.
Good afternoon to all. Good afternoon. My name is Janet Victor. I am a forest officer assigned to the wildlife unit at the forestry division, formerly known as the forestry department. Biodiversity means the variety of life. So all living things within the environment and how they interact with their complex habitats and environment. So biodiversity includes plants, animals, microorganisms, so the bacteria, the fungi, all those things are part of our biodiversity.
Thank you.
Hi. Sorry. Hello, my name is Brody Louis. I am from the Caribbean Youth Environment Network, known as CYEN. And biodiversity to me simply means all the different living things that share our island and our planet. The plants, the animals, insects, and so on. And how these things help create better livelihoods for us and impact us every day.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you for being here today. Three very important factions of biodiversity in St. Lucia. And before we get into the crux of the discussion, I mean, let's talk very briefly about what it is that we are protecting. Before we get into the issues, let's talk about what is at stake. Can you name one thing in St. Lucia's biodiversity that your organization is actively protecting, and one reason why it matters to daily life?
On the forestry end of things, one of our primary role as an organization or government organization is to ensure that all species, wildlife, and both flora and fauna species are protected. And that helps with maintaining a balance for our ecosystem. It allows us to get fresh water, fresh running water, allows us to get food, fertile soils. We also get clean air. The air that we breathe is also purified. So we protect the plants. Plants absorb carbon, which helps with purifying the air. We have animals, such as lizards, agoutis. They basically maintain everything in the environment. So they maintain food, they maintain pests, they maintain so they ensure that our food, our plants are
We say that the plants, in terms of kind of managing our oxygen levels and so on, in terms of carbon emissions, you'd say. Well, we have loads more to talk about, and so we're going to get into the dish of the day. And the dish of the day is basically biodiversity, our environment, why it matters to us as a community. And don't just think it's for people in the National Trust or in the forestry or all of these divisions are the only ones responsible. This is a community thing. And today, for the dish of today, that's what we're going to be talking about.
Every bed in our hospitals tells a story of someone's mother, someone's brother, someone's friend. And when that story of care is complete, it's time for the next chapter, home. But too often, discharged patients are left waiting hours, days, weeks, sometimes months, not because they want to stay, but because no one comes. We understand life gets busy, but every extra day they wait means another patient, perhaps in pain, perhaps in crisis, can't get the bed they desperately need. So when the call comes that your loved one is ready, please be ready too. Pick them up, bring them back to the comfort of family, where healing truly continues. Because caring doesn't end at discharge, it continues with you. A message from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs.
All right,
Serving
folks,
now,
welcome back to our
the Daily
biodiversity.
Dish.
All right, folks, welcome back to our biodiversity discussion in terms of how we can protect our environment, how it impacts us from our health to just our general environment and for our future, for our children. How do you see St. Lucia looking in the future, how things have changed from the introduction of plastic bottles and plastic waste, how this has changed from when we were growing up to now, and looking at how we have so many things that have been under threat in St. Lucia. And we are here with three wonderful women from the Forestry Division, from CYEN and the St. Lucia National Trust. And we're going to be talking about biodiversity. And just before the break, we were speaking about naming one thing that your faction, group, organization protects that you believe is under threat, and why is it important to daily life?
Okay, so for CYEN, being a youth group, our main focus is pushing for more advocacy and understanding of what biodiversity is, what is being put in place by government and non-governmental organizations to protect it, and how we as the young people can put forth ideas and ways of living that could appeal to the public and help them to understand it better. So, I mean, biodiversity is, to us is just a topic that we're very passionate about. It's something that we're working hard towards allowing our members to understand. Most of our demographics is young persons below the age of 33 and 35, thereabouts. So for us, it's understanding and pushing for more knowledge. Thank you.
Wonderful. I think that's great. Melina, do you have any?
The St. Lucia National Trust owns, or we have properties vested in us. One of these such islands is the Maria Islands. They were declared a nature reserve in 1982. Now, since we're speaking on biodiversity, I am happy to say that we have some very unique species on Maria. We work not in silo, we also work in collaboration with the forestry department because they have laws that protect such wildlife. On Major, we have 5 endemic species. Endemic, when I say endemic, they belong to us. They are ours. Say Sanu. Okay? We have the St. Lucia whiptail. The male bears the color of the flag. And we have the St. Lucia racer, which is one of the rarest snakes in the world. And I'm saying this because I feel very proud when I say those things. And I think that all St. Lucians should be just as proud. Now, we have to protect this habitat. We have to protect their habitat. We can't let just anyone go across to Maria. You must get permission from the St. Lucia National Trust. And forestry also must give us permission because we have the migratory birds that come there during, what month, Jan? Sorry, what month again? May to June?
May to sometimes as far as September.
Okay. Thank you, Jan. Yes, May to September. And we go by their law. If they tell us the island has to be closed, we do close it. Right now, the island has been closed to the public. We don't allow tours to go across there because the Forestry Department, the St. Lucia National Trust, and Darrell Wildlife Conservation Trusts, we go across there. We are doing some studying of the different species. So until we know some more, we're not opening up the island to the public. Very soon that will happen.
Thank you. I think that's really important because as a child, I remember going to Maria Island and I never I didn't think or put into account the endangerment. And I think people say, why can't we go there? That's part of St. Lucia. We have a right to go there. But understanding the gravity of having a snake that's one of the rarest in the world, the racer, the population is less than 20.
Now it's a bit more, probably 50, between 50 and 100.
That's great. That's great.
There may be more, but we are carrying out surveys, the Forestry Department and the National Trust. So we should be able to say something more on that matter later on.
But that's great to know because when people look at things like from a global perspective, right, not just from a St. Lucian perspective, that we have these things that are endemic, as in you cannot find it anywhere else. And to say that the snake comes from Maria Island, make it even more special, more rare, more valuable. And the same goes for the whiptail as well. Right. So, Janet, and from a forestry standpoint, in terms of the forestry division, is something that's so vast, so big. Like anything that has to do with bush, call forestry, right? So, like, what are the main things that you all protect? What is one thing that you all are protecting right now, and how does that affect us in a day-to-day basis?
Thank you for the question. From forestry, I would say that one of the main things that we protect today would be our natural environment. So be it plants and animals, they all fall under the mandate of the Forestry Department. It is important for everyday life. As I mentioned earlier on, we have birds. The birds usually pollinate food. So with no birds, we don't get any food. We get fertile soil because the trees protect any rainfall, any land slippage, any soil erosion. So now that also protects our coral reef, which is lower down in the marine reserve. So, of course, forestry primary role would be to ensure that the environment, everything in the environment, is protected to the best of our ability. For everyday people, it would be good if they understood the impact of what happens if we damage a particular ecosystem. It has a ripple effect, like a domino effect. So, yes, you may think, okay, it's one bird, or maybe just an acre of forest. But yes, these things do have serious implications in our everyday lives, and we don't see it until it becomes so vast that we cannot reverse what we actually did.
I mean, it's scary when you talk about it in that way, right? But I think from a day-to-day, if you say that the birds, the bees and so on help pollinate, and especially when you're looking at things from an economic standpoint, right? Some people don't feel very connected to nature or whatever. I think every average St. Lucian connects to nature every day, they may not see it that way. They walk in the yard and pick a guava, you are connecting to nature. If during your work break, you go in by the beach and sit down by the water, you are connecting to nature. So in terms of creating a better relationship, because you're having more awareness of how much we engage with nature. If you say that St. Lucia is about 80% forested, am I correct on that? It's about that, right? But from an economic standpoint, if you're saying that if we do not protect our biodiversity, it's going to affect our ability to grow our own food, right? That means that is going to increase our dependency on foreign food imports, right? And therefore it's putting St. Lucia in further debt. So even looking at things from an economic standpoint, it's like a circular advantage. It's advantageous to us in so many different ways, right? So I think this is the next question for all of y'all is, in terms of, we all understand the value of it, why it's important, but what is currently the biggest threat to our biodiversity right now? Don't know who would like to start first. Okay, so Brody from our
CY.
youth.
Okay.
Yes, the youth speaks today.
It would seem so. I think sometimes from a youth perspective, it's trying to manage wanting more economic growth and understanding how that the implications of it on our biodiversity. I mean, as a young person, you'd want to see more changes, better roads being built, even the pathways for specific spaces to go and do bird watching and so on. But you don't understand that building those roads affects the ecosystems and the homes of the animals that are there. In addition to that, I think it would also be cultural change. Sometimes encouraging persons, even with us doing international coastal cleanups yearly, where we clean the coastlines of 5 major beaches in St. Lucia. It is interesting to note that some of these beaches from last year to this year, you see an increase in the amount of waste deposited on the coastlines, particularly in Fort O'Denry. For an area that most of us would not frequent, you would think that that area is not somewhere that's going to be polluted as much, but that has been an area of major concern for CYN doing those cleanups within the last 3 years. We have noticed in some other areas, such as the Anselvoet or $5 Beach, some persons note it as different names. But we would also notice that beach, due to tourism, they're having different tents and camping happening there. So the waste deposit onto that beach would be minimal. However, there's a lot of erosion. We could see the coastline like coming in. The trees that were there like 2 years ago when we went there are literally gone, or the roots of the trees, you're seeing it. So it shows that while some things have allowed for positive change, some things are still adamant and need a bit of support from local support. In addition, like I would have said, cultural change and letting people understand the need to not only not litter, but understand the type of items that they're littering and where they're depositing these items. Again, in Fodder, we would have found so many pesticide and weedicide bottles, and you would think, why would in a day like today would we still be using so many pesticide and weedicide items that are imported. So I mean, for us as young people, again, with advocacy and understanding the different things that are happening in our country and how we could positively impact change, is what we're doing as an NGO.
Amazing. I think that's so inspiring to hear, and I think also hard when you say that things in certain areas, things are getting progressively worse in regards to the litter. And I think there's often this perception of, that it's a tourist, but I find that in a lot of the spaces that we go to, you can tell it's locals because it's like KFC bottles and Blue Waters. That's yes, I've seen that. But I mean, I want to just say thank you all for doing that, because I think you often hear, it's just the young people, they don't care, they just throwing everything everywhere. And to see that young people like y'all are doing that, and that you all have committed to that annually and going to, out of your way to different places, I think that's very, very inspiring. So just want to say thank you for doing that.
We also want to say, And it's also important to note that it's not sometimes just the young people. We've gotten so much motivation and assistance from governmental organizations such as Forestry, who assisted us in actually going to the cleanups in Fordo. I mean, it's home to the boa and so the iguana and so on. So, it's also something that some persons are a bit hesitant to even go clean, but it is an area of concern for us. So it was something that we definitely wanted to do. And even different organizations that assist us, whether it's monetary or just giving the helping hand, we've also noted that has been influential for some of our members.
Yes, amazing. Thank you. Jeanette from Forestry. Yes, just to refresh you on the question, it is what do you think is most under threat, or the things that is causing the biggest threat to our biodiversity?
Okay, from a forest officer standpoint, I would say habitat loss. We have persons, yes, we all need to build homes, hotels, we need to be able to sustain ourselves. But when we encroach on our already fragile forests, we have a lot of land being cleared, and there are some species that only adapt to certain areas. So when you clear that land, there's practically nowhere they can go. So we lost those species, and now we have the ecosystem is no longer balanced. We also have the threat of invasive species, and those are species that are non-native to St. Lucia. What they actually do, they outcompete our native species. So we find our native species that were also providing ecosystem services for us are now being wiped off or being outcompeted by the invasive species, because those invasive species are they come with that zeal, like, they just take over everything. So we have plants that are invasives, we have animals also that are invasives, and with those invasive species competing with our native species, we find again imbalance in our ecosystem. So for us, or for the forestry department, it would be habitat loss, areas being cleared of forest cover, as well as invasive species. Another type of habitat loss that we have is not only the forest cover, but we also have sand mining, illegal sand mining. And that has become an issue on our beaches where you find the St. Lucia iguana nesting. So the iguanas actually nest in sand, in beach sand, and with the sand being removed, and again with coastal erosion, so you have the ocean expanding, so they're coming in, but also the soil is no longer there. So we have soil being wiped off from the coastal erosion, as well as persons removing the sand on the beach. So that's also causing an issue for our St. Lucia iguanas, that they don't have nesting places. So with no nesting places, you just find generations of iguanas just declining over the years. So for me, forestry, habitat loss, and invasive species would be the threats that we face, especially when it comes to biodiversity conservation.
And again, for considering that the indigenous name for St. Lucia is the land of the iguana. And then, I'm sure, even from a tourism standpoint, right? So people ask, where are they? And then how do we hold ourselves account to why we don't have, And then also things like invasive species, so would you say the giant African snail, because that one was a pain?
Yes.
For such a long time.
The giant African snail is an invasive species. We also have plants like the lucina. So lucina was brought here many years ago. Persons use it for different things. I've heard charcoal, I've heard for feeding of cattle, but it's very prolific. So it means it could spread any and everywhere. The seeds are very light, so wind dispersal, and it goes all over. So it now competes. So you get a forested area that was cut down, and it's now regenerating. You find your species, the pioneer species, being there, only lucina, and that doesn't give you much variety in a forest ecosystem with only lucina. So that's another. Then we have some of we have the green iguana in Suffer, and it has been there for years, and they're multiplying. And because recently we were in Suffer and we actually saw juveniles, so that means that if they were to outcompete our St. Lucia iguana, we no longer can say we have an iguana that's unique and endemic to us.
Right. Yes.
So the species become emerging. They come in, they go in, coming and going. But for now, we have some species that we really invasive species that we really need to ensure that are kept within a threshold. So we give our species a chance to thrive on their own.
Wow, that's very, very insightful. I think there's so many different variants of when we're talking about biodiversity, right? So I know that we're supposed to be taking a quick break for the news and weather. So we'll be right back, and we're going to get to you, Melina, about your perceptions about what is one of the biggest threats from the National Trust standpoint on biodiversity.
Okay.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Every bed in our hospitals tells a story of someone's mother, someone's brother, someone's friend. And when that story of care is complete, it's time for the next chapter, home. But too often, discharged patients are left waiting hours, days, weeks, sometimes months, not because they want to stay, but because no one comes. We understand life gets busy, but every extra day they wait means another patient, perhaps in pain, perhaps in crisis, can't get the bed they desperately need. So when the call comes that your loved one is ready, please be ready too. Pick them up, bring them back to the comfort of family, where healing truly continues. Because caring doesn't end at discharge, it continues with you. A message from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs.
It's now time for your weather report, brought to you by Island Style.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up. What are you looking for? Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle. Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my #1 store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for. That sounds perfect. I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation. I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And the forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east and east-southeast near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. Weather, fair skies becoming cloudy at times with a few scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. Forecast for the Lesser Antilles. Fair to occasionally cloudy skies with widely scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. Your tropical weather outlook. A weak tropical wave will cause some cloudy periods and widely scattered showers and possible isolated thunderstorms over the region during the forecast period. Another tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 9 miles per hour or 15 kilometers per hour. And that was your weather report, brought to you by Island Style.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 #1.
Girl, I've I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my #1 store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous tiles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
All right, folks, and welcome back to our biodiversity discussion. We have an amazing panel of biodiversity champions in St. Lucia. We have Janet Victor of the Division of Forestry. We have Miss Brody Louis. She's from the Caribbean Youth Environment Network, and Melina Murray of the St. Lucia National Trust. So we were just talking about some of the biggest threats to St. Lucia's biodiversity from the standpoint of each of these different organizations who have been championing the protection of our environments and why it is important to protect our environment, how it affects our health, it even affects our wealth. Okay, so back to you, Melina. We're speaking about from the St. Lucia National Trust standpoint, from a heritage site perspective, what or where is most at risk and why?
For now, regarding our by rich, or I can say our species. I would talk about our species. I know Janet spoke about habitat loss, but I think the islands that we manage, Maria Major, where we have our endemic species, because it is controlled, you won't see a risk there. But there are some other islands that our St. Lucia whiptail, they were translocated to. I can speak on that one. The St. Lucia whiptail was translocated to Prale Island, and when we go across to carry out biosecurity on the island, we notice a lot of garbage. People come across there to have parties. They leave their bottles, their chicken bones, their boxes, their foil, leftover food. They also start fires on Prale, and we see all of that left behind. Now, the whiptails, I can tell you that the whiptails on Prale, they're extremely friendly. So you will go to Prale Island, they'll go right up to you. And when we leave garbage behind, the whiptails enter the plastic bottles, the old cups that are left behind. Sometimes they're trapped inside. And yes, the breakable bottles as well, they enter those, they get trapped behind. I mean, we should be proud, like I said earlier. This is ours. The St. Lucia whiptail, the male, bears the color of our flag. And this is something that the St. Lucia National Trust will continue doing in collaboration with all other agencies, is to get that out there, educate the public. And I think that until we get that right, I don't think St. Lucians are going to appreciate that. Just you go across to Prale, it is not managed by the National Trust, that is private property. You go across there, bring your garbage back to the mainland. Don't leave it on the island for the whiptails to feed on what your scraps of food. They already have their own food source there. Anything for you to add, Janet?
Well, I mean, we still have a lot to talk about, but I mean, it's true, because I mean, to think about that we have a lizard that's ours, you cannot find it anywhere else, and then if it dies out, it would have been our own fault, and we don't want to be like, oh my God, how do we allow that to happen? And I feel like when Brody, you were talking about in terms of culture. There needs to be a change in culture. You said that earlier. And I feel like there used to be a type of shame to just throw your garbage. And because people say, oh, there's not enough bins, and there's a lot. There's not enough shame. Exactly. I think people say, I think these are just excuses because it was a mentality that you'd never throw your garbage outside the car window, or if you are going to engage in a natural space, you go to Prala Island, it's beautiful. You go to this place, it's beautiful. You go on a river line, you go in there because it's beautiful. And if you keep, and this expectation that somebody else is going to do it, I think that's a kind of disconnect that has developed over, I think, maybe the past 20 or 30 years, because we were not always like that. We had a pride, and it was shameful to just throw your garbage. Now it's a form of entitlement because people will say things that, well, I'm giving somebody a job or whatever. And, you know, even looking at how the health risks, for example, with the garbage, like throwing things into the gutters, these things clogging it up, and it's creating breeding grounds for mosquitoes. The microplastics that be entering into our bloodstreams, and all of those things will affect our health, as well as protecting things like the whiptail, like the racer, like our iguana. So there is a lot of things that I think, even on a day-to-day, just taking your garbage with you, you know. But one of the things that, in terms of biodiversity, we're having a discussion about, in terms of, I just wanted to touch very briefly before we move on to the next question, is about bush medicine. So, and how bush medicine is a form of biodiversity in itself, right? So even kind of looking at how we decolonizing how we view our traditional practices, right? Because, you know, there has been all of this Western influx of what is better, and that we should disregard the when I was speaking to Jomo yesterday, he called it endangered knowledge, because the knowledge of our grandparents, great-grandparents, these things that were passed down, and even in our gardens, having our gardens, whether it's a big garden, small garden, and creating biodiversity within that by using our traditional medicine, by having it there. You have a cold, you go outside, you get that. You have a mosquito bite, you have a bellyache, you have this, you have all of these things that you can use. So what are your thoughts in terms of biodiversity, even within your own garden, your own household, not just outside places like Prale and the forests and all these kind of things like that? What are your thoughts on that?
Jomo should have been there to answer.
Yes.
Biodiversity plays a crucial role in our food security here in St. Lucia. I mean, so many of us, unbeknownst to us maybe, your backyard garden, what you may feel like is just, oh, I just threw the seeds there, it grew, and then that's it. This is biodiversity. This is you saying, I have a meal, I have a pumpkin to cook to put in my soup, I have some parsley and celery. This is something that I don't necessarily, it protects my pockets because now I do not have to go purchasing additional items for me to cook what I need to cook. So in a lot of ways, I believe our people need to understand that it is important to protect these things, because if you could no longer get the seeds because we're so influenced by other genetic mutation of our food sources, we may not always get the seeds out of the pumpkin when we get it in the market. So now you're no longer able to just throw your seeds and get it growing in your yard. Even the rain sources and all of those things, we it's crucial to understand it better and to know. And even in terms of what you were speaking on, our bush medication and so on, a lot of us, especially me, would not know half of the bush medicine people were drinking back in the day. I mean, my sister and my grandmother would suggest certain things, but would I want to go and search in the bushes? Not necessarily. And would I know the specific plant and how it looks? I mean, that is a form of biodiversity that we really need to take into consideration and understanding better in terms of dosage and so on, so that we're not overdosing ourselves in some ways or underdosing and thinking that it's not working.
Agreed. But yes, that's what he called it, endangered knowledge. And I really love that. I really love that concept. So I mean, we don't want to just talk about all the bad things, you know, because yes, there are lots of pressures for each one of your organizations and other organizations, from development, from policy gaps, public behavior, economic pressure. But, you know, for you, all of you all have been doing amazing work individually and part of your organizations. And could you tell us some of your success stories or some of your signs of progress that you have witnessed during your time working in this industry, and things that maybe you feel super proud of, if it is within your division or something that's happened within St. Lucia that you like, yes, we actually did that, or this is progress happening right now?
The National Trust with forestry. I think we can say we're very proud that we go out there, we carry out surveys, we get to know more about our species. Now, this is what I can speak about, because this is what I think I am very passionate about. For me, personal win, seeing two racers mating for the first time. So that for me is a very personal win. Also, for me, it's promoting the awareness of endemic species, such as our beautiful white-breasted thrasher. But it goes hand in hand. It's not just one organization. As I said, National Trust cannot just take all the credit. I always, we work very closely with forestry, so I can say these are personal wins for us. Right, Jan?
I would agree with you, Melina. Also, from forestry standpoint, I would say doing school presentations. So we get calls from schools, requests from schools, especially when they're doing endangered species. So they ask us to come in as resource persons to give a little more information on the endemic species, endangered species, what are the threats, what can they do to preserve those species. And I take pleasure in going to those schools. So it takes me around the island, whichever school calls. It's like sometimes I have like every week, or sometimes for the week two schools. So I have been to schools in Soufrière, Vieux-Fort, right here at Kamen-Rengi. So it's like, going around the island, just doing those things. And the joy that I get is every time you get to the school, the children are always so excited. It's like, is that a parrot? Is that an iguana? So we actually take those live specimens to them. Is that a boar? Is that a snake? And they're always eager to learn. They want to know. The teachers. I remember going to a school and asking to do a presentation in just one grade. And when I got it, the principal was like, no, you'll have to do the entire school.
Wow.
And I wasn't prepared for that. But guess what? We are here. So I had to stand up in front of like maybe 300-400 children just to present. And with my little screen, I had to do it because the children wanted that information. So the information was given to them. They gathered around to see the animals. They took photos. They went back home. And you would meet some children today, and they would still say, Miss, I remember you came to my school. And we always go with some, maybe exercise books, something. So we always encourage them, can you listen? Because we need to ensure that you learn something. So at the end, we have a little quiz, based on the presentation. And the children are always, Miss, me. And we never have enough to give. Why? Because they always engage. So for me, doing public education, public awareness with schools, taking part in exhibitions, because in March we had World Wildlife Day, and then we had the St. Lucia Ferdinand's out in for public, and of course we had to get caution tape because everybody wanted to go really close to the cage to see the differences between the St. Lucia Ferdinand's and the St. Lucia boar. And of course, persons asking you questions and debunking myths and saying, oh, but the Ferdinand's is this and the Ferdinand's is that. So it's just that public engagement. So it comes on a school level, but also on a public level. So I would say for forestry, or for me, that would be one of what I enjoy, what brings me joy, giving persons information and seeing their feedback and knowing that that's a level or that's a generation that would actually take that information further on and assist us with all our efforts in ensuring that our species are preserved and conserved to the best of our abilities.
Thank you. I think, yes, absolutely, education is so important. I think because it is a community effort, it's not just a select few. It's all of us together. And you, Brody, from the youth perspective?
Well, from the youth perspective, I think a big win for us is being part of the discussions, being there when the planning is happening and also there during the execution. I mean, for CYN, we've been privy to a lot of the conversations, even when it comes to school visits or when we're discussing a bioreserve for St. Lucia and so on. We've been part of assisting the Jeff UNEP with the policy for apiculture here within the OECS. So for us, the big win is being part of the conversation and not being there just to say, a young person was there, but more so a young person assisted us. A young person was in the conversation. They made suggestions. So for us, this is where we find our pride in knowing that we do matter and our voices are heard. And yep.
Amazing. And I think that's true, is to have young people be involved, not just be talked at, but that they talk, that it's a conversation with everybody. So we have 10 more minutes left. And I have a few more questions, but I think now we're talking about, now we know past and present, let's talk about the future. And for the way forward, this is a question for all of you. If the public could do one realistic thing, starting this week, to implement change, preservation, protection of the environment, one realistic thing, what should it be?
I'll go first on this one. I would think education. I may know something, somebody else may not know. I may know what our species are, what we should do. I may know the laws, but you may not know. So for me, it's giving out information, public knowledge, public education, public awareness, and ensure that it's sustainable. So ensure that we keep going, giving that information to generations. Because I believe education helps change your behavior. It helps change your attitude. It helps change your practices. So the more you know, the more you engage, the more that you want to be the change, that if per se in the future you presented with some information that you're able to pass it on. So that for me would be education from one person to the next. So it could be family members, it could be peers, it could be friends, it could be church members, it could be politicians going to doing your rounds, just giving that information, engaging and ensuring that everybody is on the same level and ensures they know what it is, what it takes to ensure the environment remains as natural as possible.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay, so for a young person, I will piggyback on what you said. Not saying that's what we do, but it's using the information that you gain from what is being spoken about. So you will say, education and going out into the field and allowing persons to understand whether it's legislation or policy development and so on. For young people, I think it's important that we use that knowledge, whether it be in your day-to-day life. Next week, you could say, you know what, I'm no longer going to be purchasing plastic bottled waters. I'm going to get myself a reusable water bottle. And now so many places, even here, there's a water dispenser. So if you have your water bottle, there's no need for you to come in with a plastic bottle, or you have your cup and stuff like that. So I think it's using the knowledge, whether it be you compost, you no longer just throw your peels in the bin and you put it in your backyard and you start gardening. This is the time to do so. These little practices really make for cultural change and just livelihood development and protecting your food security in so many different ways that the loose terms that we would use may be different from the jargon that are used by more professional persons within the field, but it still applies to what we do on a day-to-day basis. So that too is something I think we should be doing next week.
Thank you.
I don't think there's anything else for me to add to that. Because for me, and I had that conversation earlier, it is definitely education. And we don't just want to educate the young people, we want to educate everyone. Yes, we go out to the schools, but we also want to have maybe have community meetings and educate people. Do it in Creole. Do it in, get it out there. Don't just keep it to, I think that is the role of, I think, all three of our organizations here. I think I can say that. But I would like to see that continued, definitely. So I'm in support of both of you. Thank you.
Yes, there's a lot of things. I think when the education comes in, things then feel like second nature. Yes. So you'd be like, I would never throw the bottle or just leave it there because you understand the repercussions. I think we don't have an awareness of repercussions. And sometimes when my friend and I had done the Don't Be a Malpop campaign and stuff like that, and sometimes we'd be there and we see people just fly, and we stand up right then. Everybody knew us from that video when it came out. And then we say, hey, how you can just throw that there? And don't you know it's us, Malpop ladies? They say, oh, hey, I didn't know. I sorry, I even checked myself. They don't even realize they're doing it sometimes. And again, going back to, it's now become a culture. Right. And I think with the education, the repercussions of our actions come into context, and it'll give us accountability and sing, because it will come back on us, because it does have a domino effect, like Jeanette was saying. But and yes, I agree. There's lots of little things we can do from today, like bringing a flask to work. We did grow up without plastic bottles, and people feel like we can't live without bottled water. Well, we did before. There's lots of little things like bringing your reusable bags when you're going to buy your groceries. There's lots of little things. Even some of the containers that we get when we buy lunches, I find a lot of the containers are very good, and I reuse them. So it's so all of those little things definitely do help. But I do think education as well, looking at how the successes with all of the educational drives all of you all have been doing in terms of contextualizing the importance of biodiversity. So we have a couple of minutes left, but I think if you have any closing statements in terms of what would you like as final thoughts for the St. Lucian public, the wider public, to know about the importance of biodiversity and how they can continue to actively support it on a community and individualistic level. Jeanette from Forestry Division is stepping in.
Jeanette like to just swing it. That's right. Okay, so for me, as forest officer, forestry department, it's community engagement. We understand that communities are the biggest users of the resources. So it would be to engage them, to ensure that they're on par, they're right there with us, stepping side by side, to ensure that they actually benefit from when those resources are preserved. We need to ensure that they understand when we preserve those resources, they actually benefit. They get livelihoods from it. The ecosystem services, fresh air, food are also readily and abundantly available when we protect those species. So for me, it would be ensuring that those communities are fully engaged. Like Prale, the issue with Prale Island, we need to ensure that those persons have that ownership, like that island belongs to them. So it would be ensure that island remains clean, free of garbage, because garbage brings rats. Rats is a predator that if any rat gets onto Prale Island, we have an issue. All the whiptails will be on the front. So of course it's getting that community behind us, the community buy-in, because when you engage them, they're more willing to assist and help us in the a lot of the strategies, biodiversity strategies that we want to implement. So for me, it is ensuring that communities are fully engaged and always aware and are giving in, and the buy-in is there to ensure that we, even if we are the primary persons, but then they, without their support, our success stories will not be forthcoming. They are the custodians, they are the ownership. These are the persons that will ensure that our biodiversity survives.
Absolutely.
back to me. Well, for me, I would say, in closing, biodiversity isn't just about the plants and the animals. It's about ourselves. It's about our food. It's about our livelihoods and our identity as Saint Solutions. So much so, like you would have spoken on Miss National Trust, would be taking pride in the things that belong to Saint Lucia, taking pride in the things that make us Saint Lucia. If we no longer have the iguanas, can we even call ourselves Ionola? We cannot call ourselves these things that we've so much taken pride in and broadcasted to the world. If we no longer have our pitons, what are we? Are we Helen? So in a lot of ways, I believe that biodiversity is us. We are in charge, and we need to take charge of ourselves and our future.
Thank you, absolutely.
Thank you, both of you. I think each of you took a little bit of what I had to say. For me, I would just encourage all solutions to just get to know what is ours. Like you said, I mean, we have, St. Lucia is known for the 2 pitons. Look, we have another one. We have Julian Alfred for the medals, gold and silver. And now we can say we have a whiptail or ground lizard that has the color or bears the color of our flag. That's another one to add there. You understand? So that's how I look at it. We should be proud of these things. Also to know that we have the rarest snake in the world. I mean, we have so many different species out there that we can tell the whole world about. So for me, I think we just have to, like Jean said, the engagement, let the community seek ownership. People of View Fort should be happy to know that, boy, Maria Island, that's where you can get this and you can get that. You know, when people come there, you spread that. At the airport, we can have whiptail flyers, racer flyers. So as people come in, they see that. And our people, too, take pride when they're speaking to the visitors coming in, tell them about that. So that's my piece in closing.
Yes. Thank you, ladies. This has been really, really insightful, and I think it's so great to have your voices be made to the general public. I think this should happen all the time. But thank you for doing them in all the different spaces that you'll do. I think in closing thoughts, I guess when we talk about biodiversity, a lot of us don't really know what it means, right? But yes, all the bush medicine in your garden, that's biodiversity. If you're going by the river and you're enjoying the beauty of it, that is you engaging in the biodiversity of St. Lucia. If you're going by the beach, just a whole of meditation in between the stress of your work, that's enjoying it. And going by the market and getting all the fresh foods, all of these things, you are reaping the benefits of St. Lucia's nature, St. Lucia's biodiversity, the environment. So why would you not want to protect it? And also see that the entire island belongs to us. So we have a responsibility for every river. So every river line you go on, when you leave that garbage, you are leaving it on a piece of something that's yours. Every beach, every drain, when you go Prale and Lime or Rat Island, wherever you are in St. Lucia, it is for us to protect, for us to hold dear to our hearts. That's ours. The same way we love the pitons, same way we love the parrot, and tell people this is the only place in the world you can get this. There's so many things that are part of St. Lucia's biodiversity you can only get here. So just for us to see that biodiversity and protecting our environment is a community thing, because St. Lucia belongs to us. So we must take care of our house and home. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Established in 1961 and still going strong.
Like, really? No. Shut up.
Radio Caribbean International. We are number one.
We now go into our Digicel half hour.
The future of communication is here. Say hello to eSIM at Digicel. Use your Digicel number without a physical SIM card in your phone, and your data, minutes, and SMS all there. eSIM works with prepaid and postpaid. Activate more than one eSIM on the same device and use multiple phone numbers without a physical SIM card. Convert your existing number for only $10. Switch to Digicel and get a free eSIM, free 30-day plan, and 30 gigabytes data free. Digicel, first to give you eSIM technology in St. Lucia. Available at any Digicel store. Digicel, better connected.
Shop with confidence at Courts. Get the lowest prices guaranteed. Shop with confidence and save big on appliances, furniture, electronics, and so much more. If you find a lower price on any other products elsewhere, we'll match the price. Plus, we'll give you back 110% of the difference. Plus, with Ready Finance, shop today and pay later. No fine print and no tricks. Only at Courts. Bringing value home. Special conditions apply.
RCI's Feed the Need is our way of helping families in need have a brighter Christmas. We are calling on you to open your heart and give non-perishable canned and packaged food, toiletries, and basic household items. Open your heart and give this Christmas. Drop off your contribution at RCI Studio, where Santa's helpers will turn them into gift hampers to distribute to those in need. This Christmas, have a heart and help someone have a brighter Christmas. Feed the Need on RCI, the station that's all heart.
Tired of sky-high bills and a planet on the brink? It's time to go green without burning your pockets. At First National Bank, we are here to make saving the planet affordable. Whether you're installing solar panels, purchasing a water tank, upgrading to an inverter AC, or buying a hybrid vehicle, we've got the green to help you go green. Fast approval, low interest rates, and Mother Nature approved. Your